Lesson 8.6, we're going to take a look at picking hulls, draining, and spinning. And this is a pretty simple section in many ways. We talked about picking hulls in the last section, and there's not a lot to cover here, but there's a few tools I think I want to discuss. So one, as you can see here, is our wire rack, and the other one here is our mesh strainer. And so our general strategy for picking hulls is to push the crop down with the metal wire rack, and then use these strainers to scoop the hulls off the top. The hulls are either going to float or sink, and so the ones that sink we don't need to worry about, and the ones that float we can easily scoop off. So it's a very, very easy method, which can be really slow at first, but after a while you can spot a hull from a mile away. So it's one of those things, like anything, you start to develop a skill around what your technique is going to be. A couple things to keep in mind is the more space you have in your bin, the easier it is. So as you're picking hulls, if you find clumps of microgreens that don't have any hulls in them, you remove them. So you're always trying to clear up space to make the picking easier. A part of hull removal is actually trying to prevent them from being there in the first place. And so with something like sunflower, we'll often brush the tray before we cut it to knock off some hulls. And then we also want to make sure the tray is quite mature when we harvest it, so most of the hulls have popped off. And this can actually be a varietal characteristic, where some varieties are popping off really easily and others are kind of getting stuck. And this can be something that we take into consideration when buying a lot of seed, is how well hulls do pop off. And that's why we always bring in, maybe 10 kilograms of seed and test that out in multiple batches to get a sense of that. So while we have a process of removing hulls here in the water, we're actually thinking about hull removal with something like sunflower when we purchase the seed, which is really part of a much more I was going to say interdisciplinary, but it's more of a holistic approach to solving problems. We're not just looking for the best method of picking hulls, we're also thinking of avoiding hull picking altogether. So these are things to keep in mind with other crops where you're finding like, oh, we're having this problem. Is it an issue with the variety, or is it an issue with our process? So these things are quite important. So yeah, hull picking isn't easy, but it's one of those like time-consuming, tedious tasks. You do get quicker over time, and you will start dreaming about hulls at a certain point. So just be prepared for that. So here we are. We've got our hull picked sunflowers there, all ready to spin. And here you can see like our drainage bin is full. And you can kind of see that our spinner is full there. So this is going to get removed and get packed, and then the spinner stuff will get, the draining stuff will get put in there. There's just another view there. And to give you a sense of what things look like in the spinner. So you can see there's lots of opportunity for things to get damaged here. Here you can see this is a little bit of damage here that would have happened during the process. And so these look really good, but this is where trying to pull them out of here, you're going to break stems and damage leaves. So you want to really pull things out gently and work to try and keep them in one piece, because as I mentioned, it's really, really going to make a difference on your storage quality. So yeah, this is one of when you get in hot conditions, if you don't have a cool space, the draining and spinning part can be really disruptive if packing is slow. So if you're finding you can't pack things as quick as people are picking hulls and getting stuff spun and ready, what you can do is you can take the stuff that's spun and ready, stick it in a bin and put it in the fridge until it's ready to be packed. You can essentially do your whole harvest that way. And if you have a walk-in cooler, you can just all go into the walk-in cooler and do your packing later. There's all sorts of ways to do this. Depending on your infrastructure. Often you're starting out with minimal infrastructure and a relatively small amount of fridge space. So you often design your system around that, and then you can adapt your system depending on the amount of cold space you have to spare. As I've mentioned many times, this is the stage at which things can easily get damaged. So be really, really careful at this point. And it really is like slowing down a little bit just to make sure you're not bending stems and breaking leaves. And one way to do that is to not overfill that spinner, as tempting as it might be. So this is sort of the end of the process before the actual packaging. So yeah, once again, try to do it quickly. Make sure things, if you can't get them packed right away, put them in the fridge and come back to them, and handle things gently so they don't get damaged.